Imagine this. The year is 2006. I am an 8th grader, and I hear my mom discussing the amount of snow that we will be getting. Keeping my fingers crossed, I rush to the TV and turn on the news. At the bottom of the screen, there is a row of text that is scrolling through cancellations. I keep waiting for the new road to read Limestone, Junior High, School canceled. It takes about an hour of waiting for the row to add new cancellations until I see the statement that I was hoping for. Snow day for me. Instead of being at school, I was excited to sleep in and watch TV. Well, looking forward to the year 2022, I still experience the I wonder if we have to go to school feeling because I'm a teacher. Until this year, I wasn't allowed to teach my lessons to students when school was canceled. Until recently. Parkside changed to having snow days be remote. In this episode of Teacher Talks with Breur, I am going to go through this change from traditional snow days to remote/e-learning days. Traditional snow days are days where students or schools were canceled due to inclement weather. This weather could include large amounts of snow or temperature being too cold. Students and staff didn't have to report to school and weren't expected to work on schoolwork. Unit 5, along with other school districts across the country, made the switch from traditional snow days to e-learning days. On an e-learning day, students would stay home but would have to sign into classes remotely. Students are expected to join their classes and complete any assignment for that day. Making the change from traditional snow days to remote snow days is a positive change for Parkside because learning can still continue even when the weather is bad, as well as students and teachers like myself are prepared to use the technology needed for e-learning. Getting started with our first claim. E-learning allows learning to continue even when the weather doesn't cooperate. We all experienced the pandemic that started in 2020. And with this, there was one good thing that came out of it. It's that it showed us that learning can occur outside of the four walls of the classroom. Before March 2020, teachers weren't prepared to teach their lessons online. Now, teachers and students can continue to progress through their learning from the comfort of their own homes. According to an EdWeek Research Center, or according to the We Mistake, 1, 2, 3. According to the EdWeek Research Center, they found that 39% of principals and district leaders converted snow days to remote learning days as a result of their experience with remote learning during the pandemic. An additional 32% said they are considering it. With me, I also experienced the going through the remote learning process, and I can also say that I am more confident with learning that technology. And when we see those snow days, I'm ready to go. With that, knowing that school can continue online, it does take some stress off school administration to make the difficult decision of should students and staff travel in dangerous conditions. Speaking for myself, I hate driving in the snow, so when I hear that it's bad weather, I prefer to just stay at home. This also gives time for custodians like Bill to clear pathways and parking lots for schools to be ready to go. Teachers spend a lot of time planning lessons. So, like myself, I spend a lot of time on the weekends getting lessons ready to go. It does throw a curveball when we have to have interruptions in our week that are unexpected. So students are either meeting with their teachers or completing an assignment on e-learning days. This allows all the planning that I took to still continue and not be interrupted by a day off. In an article, a teacher, Ms. Vaca, believes that the benefits of virtual learning days outweigh the pitfalls. As quoted, particularly at a time when learning loss among students has risen due to the pandemic, the opportunities for teachers to connect with their students daily supports continual learning and retention. So then going on to our next claim. Technology has made so many changes to how instruction is being presented. Teachers can present their lessons remotely. Speaking from personal experience, when I had to teach remotely in March 2020, I was nervous about how my lessons and mistake. 1, 2, 3. Speaking from personal experience, when I had to teach remotely in March 2020, I was nervous about how my lessons and how to change them in a way so I could teach them to students over a computer. Since then, I have had over 2 years of experience and with teaching over Google Meets and making lessons and activities that can be done either in the classroom or online. So I don't need that much notice in order to take my lessons and make them digital. And that's what we can have those e-learning days help us out with. So then also technology is used every day in lessons regardless of if students are at school or not. So every class, I typically am in front of the board and ask my students to get to Google Classroom at some point in my lessons. So students are either working on an assignment in Google Classroom or working on everybody's favorite technology tool, Excel. And with that, so giving instructions to students to go to Google Classroom from the front of my classroom or giving those same directions from my kitchen table won't interrupt what I'm doing for the day. And with this, technology is important and it's easy to access in the schools, but also school districts have realized that technology can be difficult to access when we are outside of school. So, school districts can assist families that might not have access to the internet due to where they are living. So, for this, one school district noticed that that was a hurdle that they had to overcome. So, they ensured that all 16,000 of their students had a reliable at home internet connection. Tim Johnson, who is a teacher in this district, says that his district currently provides hotspots for about 900 students who don't have internet at home. So, with this, we've been going through some claims that I have for why e learning days are great and good replacement for our traditional snow days. But we've got a guest speaker in the house. All right. So, for this, my guest speaker is Miss Stack. Miss Stack, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be on your podcast.
I'm very excited too. All right, so with this, do you want to do a little bit of introduction so our audience knows who you are and why you might have some relevance to this topic?
For sure, I would love to. So, like Miss Brewer, I'm also a teacher. I teach 8th grade science and language arts. So, I as well have experienced a lot of transition from kind of traditional school to e-learning and remote learning over the last couple of years and all the changes that come along with that. So, with that being said, did you want me to go ahead with the counterclaim, Miss Brewer?
Go for it.
Fantastic. All right. So, although you have presented some wonderful arguments and evidence as to why e-learning days should replace traditional snow days, some might say that e-learning days instead of traditional snow days don't allow students to take an unexpected break from school or enjoy the day by possibly playing in the snow. And not only can this affect students, but it can also affect teachers and parents. So, an NPR article that actually came out just this past December shared about Emily Hubbard, whose 4 children attend St. Louis public schools. She understands the pressure to keep learning going, but still laments the loss of snow days. She stated that I just think you lose a lot for the teachers, for the families, when you don't get that element of surprise. And according to Jonas Hubbard, he said he was sad because he liked to play outside on snow days, but if they're virtual, then you don't get any time to play. Jonas also added that if this becomes a permanent shift, he decided he just won't tell the younger kids about the fun of snow days so they don't know what they're missing out on. And I think I come from a position where I do really agree with the counterclaim. As a teacher, but also the mother of a young child, it's really challenging to teach from home. Some of my students can even attest to hearing my daughter crying and screaming on the Google Meets because I can't give her attention and also teach at the same time. And even the last couple cold days we had where we were doing e-learning, we just had to take the risk of driving through the bad snow to get her to the babysitter so that I could effectively teach my students. So for some students, I know it can also be similar. They might be caring for their younger siblings at home at the same time. So with that being said, that's a huge distraction and it might not be equitable with e-learning.
All right, those are some great things to consider, especially for me, was seen in the perspective of I do not have a young child at home. So just getting that perspective kind of shed some light on to some of the negatives of e-learning. But with that, I would also say that when we do have e-learning days, Parkside has adopted a shorter schedule for that. So at Parkside, the first hour starts at 8:45 and eighth hour ends at 12:35. So class periods are only about 20 minutes long. And that includes a 20 or not 20, 30-minute lunch break in between the day. So after 12:35, students and children, families, they can go outside and play, stay inside and watch TV, or my personal favorite, take a nap. All right. So with this allows teachers to take a break as well. So with this, do you feel that even within your experience that the shortened schedule still prevents you from being engaged in your class?
That's a great point. I do appreciate that we have a shorter schedule. Even recently, that has served us where when the weather was getting really bad, we brought my daughter home early from the sitters that day because we knew we might not be able to get to their house later. So having this shorter day is effective. I think that does help. But also with that said, I think also with a shorter amount of time, not as much learning can happen. So why not just have the snow day? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you'll convince me, Miss Brewer.
All right. Well, then consider this. All right. So, with this, then, well, speaking of breaks, we have the ultimate break, and that is summer vacation. So, for this, with e learning, when we have those e learning days, we do not have to make them up at the end of the year. So, with this, then, that allows more time for families to start their vacation, getting ready to go. And with this, there is no interruption of like say for myself, I already have some vacations planned for the start of summer. So if we have those traditional snow days, it pushes the school year back and then does cause that interruption within scheduling for those summer vacations. Thoughts on that?
I mean, I love summer. And it is a great time for families to have time together. I definitely think that is a great point. Some parents might still have work that they are attending in the summer, so it might not be as easy for them to go on vacation, but that is a great break for students. I know it's a great time for students to relax, not feel the pressures of school as well. So I think that having that available is fantastic.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Stack, for signing in on our episode of Teacher Talks with Brewer. I appreciate your insight, especially then bringing a perspective that I might not have considered. So, with this, while I'm still leaning towards, I'm thinking those e learning days are the best way to go. I'm thinking that the pandemic itself has brought so many changes in education. Speaking from a teacher of itself, the way I'm teaching and has definitely changed since March 2020. And with this, one of those changes that has come is from Parkside switching from traditional snow days to e learning days. So, based on my experiences over the past 2 years, I see this change as a positive one because students and teachers are prepared to use this technology more in a way than we ever have been before. And this allows learning to continue even on days when the weather is not cooperating with us. So, when we are faced with these changes, it can be difficult to see the positives. But adjusting to change has been part of our lives, like I said, since March 2020. Change might not always be a bad thing, especially when it comes to these snow days. E learning allows learning to occur even when schools are closed. It allows less disruptions in learning, and students and staff can be safe when the weather causes travel to be dangerous. Students and teachers are also used to working with technology, so having students work on assignments online won't be a challenge for most. So while e-learning days might be replacing traditional snow days, having the I wonder if we have to go to school feeling won't ever go away for students or teachers when the forecast calls for snow. Thanks for listening to another episode of Teacher Talks with Brewer. Until next time.